Hi, my name is Dorie Clark, and I'm here with my friend Ruth Gotian. Ruth is a member of the Thinkers 50 Radar Thinkers, which means that she is officially on the radar as potentially one of the future thinkers that is going to be shaping the discourse of business in the future. So it's really exciting to get to be with her and hear her thoughts and ideas. Ruth is going to tell you more about herself and her background, but she is an expert in mentoring. She's an expert in success and peak performance. And about me, I do some of this stuff too. I write business books. I'm the author, most recently of Entrepreneurial You. I teach for Columbia Business School and the Duke Fuqua School of Business. Ruth, let me hand it to you. Tell us about you and your background briefly so that we can dive into a great conversation.
I am so excited to be here with you, Dorie. I mean, really, this is two New Yorkers in one place. I am really excited. So I am Dr. Ruth Gotean. I am obsessed with success. I study extreme high achievers. In my day job, I am the Chief Learning Officer in anaesthesiology at Weill Cornell Medicine, which is one of the premier hospitals here in New York, we say in the world. And I study extreme high achievers. So I look at Nobel laureates and astronauts and Olympic champions and Fortune 500 CEOs to try and figure out what made them so successful and how can the rest of us mere mortals get to that success. And it turns out we can.
Amazing. Well, we want to hear all the secrets. I think that's great. But one of the first things, Ruth, that I was curious about in your bio. So you now you are currently, as you mentioned, the Chief Learning Officer at Weill Cornell. But one of the past laurels that you had that I thought was especially interesting is you were the former Assistant Dean of Mentoring and the former Executive Director of the Mentoring Academy at Weill Cornell Medicine.
That's right.
Is this a thing? Like, does everybody do this? I was like a dean of mentoring. Like, where did that come from? This seems so unusual.
It is. I was an N of one. I was the first one in the country because, the physicians and the scientists, they learn so much and they learn how to do so much, but nobody actually teaches them how to get to that next step. And we know from all of the research that mentoring, anyone who is mentored outperforms, out-earns, and out-succeeds those who are not. So our goal is really to elevate all of these premier physicians and scientists to really help them get to the next level because they're doing such incredible work. We wanted it to really have a national and international impact. So I was overseeing the mentoring there. So I designed and launched that mentoring academy, and it was great. It was fun. And we really focused on that for a long time.
So you were teaching physicians to mentor each other?
I was teaching them how to mentor each other, how to find mentors, how to develop mentoring teams. And then I also mentored the mentors, how to take their mentoring and elevate it to the next level, because the mentoring that we grew up with doesn't exist today. We always thought it has to be someone older and wiser, who probably doesn't look like you or me, but that doesn't really work anymore. And it certainly doesn't work in today's world where you're going to meet with your mentor every other Tuesday at 4:00 and there's going to be an agenda. I don't know where I'm going to be next Tuesday at 4:00. Our world is just changing so quickly that we need something more fluid and we need something more organic. And we really can't depend on just one person because one person doesn't know it all. We're human. We all have biases. We all have limited perspectives. So really to grow that, you need a mentoring team. So I really taught them how to develop a mentoring team, who should be on your mentoring team, and how to leverage the different people on your mentoring team. So you don't have the success of one person, you have the success of all of these people and their skills and their perspectives and their networks. So it's everything one person can do, it's just in surround sound.
That's awesome. I totally agree with that philosophy. In fact, one of the things that, prop alert, one of the things that I wrote about in my book, Reinventing You, I have a whole chapter about the importance of developing what I call a mentor board of directors so that you can gather the wisdom of many people. So I'm definitely on board with that. So let me take a step back. There's so many questions about this. The first thing that I'm curious about actually is how you convince the people at Weill Cornell to actually let you do this? You said you're an N of one, like it's not a standard thing. So I imagine there's a lot of people watching this that, whether mentoring is their thing or whatever their thing is, they're like, I really, see a value, I see a business case in this, but no one's going to believe me. How did you actually go about making the case to the powers that be that this was something that should get elevated to the point that you were doing it full time?
Well, it's really great because we had a dean who believed in it passionately, but didn't quite have the time and the resources to actually put it into action. And one of the fun facts about me is I was 43 when I decided to pursue my doctorate. And at that time, I looked at the most successful physician scientists of our generation. And physician scientists are people like Tony Fauci. They are some of the Nobel laureates we're hearing about. So I looked at all of these people, and one of the things that they all had in common was mentors. And not just one mentors, they had lots and lots of mentors. And that was really the beginning, the catalyst of all of this, because if this is what they have, right? So those of us who have been working in the academic medicine space, we've known who Dr. Fauci is long before COVID. If this is what they could have achieved with the help of these other people, then we need to get people to get that today, because we're so focused on lifting the bottom, which is great. But the research shows that high achievers perform 400% more than the average employee. 400%. So if we could get more people like that, can you imagine what we could do? Can you imagine in academic medicine, for example, how many patients we could help, how many treatments we could find? I mean, it's endless. The possibilities are absolutely endless. So we needed to really create a infrastructure to help these people really achieve all this greatness that they were capable of. And there we go.
That's so interesting. I think certainly in the world of tech, they seem to appreciate that. I mean, it's kind of common wisdom, and you hear Mark Zuckerberg or Mark Andreessen talk about the fact that a great coder can do 10x the work of an average coder. But I think you're exactly right that in most other parts of society, it's viewed as almost even too elitist to talk about, and so enhancing the performance of really strong people often gets shunted to the side as we focus on working with folks who perhaps need a little bit more help. So it's an interesting question to really think about and ponder: is how do we get people who are already excellent to really be able to excel and be the best? So let me follow up with that. You spent obviously a lot of time studying this. You're running this institute. What do you do if somebody comes in? Let's say they're a talented doctor, but they're sort of young, they're sort of raw, they have no idea how to begin cultivating these relationships. What do you tell them to do? What can we all learn from this, Ruth?
So the important thing is, I am one of those people that's against assigned mentors. I don't believe they work. I think they are completely random. You and I might be assigned as mentor-mentee because we're both from New York, but as you and I know, not all New Yorkers are alike. So that really doesn't work very well. So I think we need to create these opportunities for these organic conversations to occur. And we need to make those opportunities happen. We need to teach people how to, people call it networking, but it's develop these professional relationships. And you don't ask for a thing. You just see if you have chemistry with these people. Because I don't care if they are the most successful person in the world. If you do not connect with them, you're not going to be able to help each other out. And I say help each other out because mentoring is a two-way street. Just as a young protege can help a mentor, just as a mentor can help a young protege can help a mentor. So that's just one way, but there's actually three levels. So there's the senior mentor that you need to have, and it's through these organic relationships. It's also peer mentors, right? So peers, you're not going to remain peers forever. You're going to rise. You're not going to be junior forever. I share the story, the president of Simmons College in Boston, Lynn Wooten, and the new dean at Wharton, Erica James, they are peer mentors. They are best friends. They met as grad students at the University of Michigan decades ago. They weren't going to be grad students forever. One is now the president of a university, and the other is dean of an incredible business school. So you have to just create these opportunities where you're going to meet these people. And of course, you can also have mentors who are junior to you. They don't have to be senior. You can learn a lot from people who are junior to you. Hey, that's how I learned how to get on Twitter.
Yes, absolutely. It's so important and often I think overlooked. Now, let me push into this. If you are sort of anti assigned mentors, and you're saying that we need to have chemistry, this is a place I feel like where it gets tricky, and I'd love to hear your thoughts because oftentimes, because of natural homophily, we have a situation where this may potentially be disadvantageous to women and people of color. That oh, it just well, I just seem to get along with a person who looks exactly like me and wants to play golf with me, and surprise, surprise. So how do you deal with diversity issues when the pool of mentors just because of human nature, people might be inherently more drawn to people who happen to demographically be similar?
And that's where the team of mentors really comes in handy, because the mentor doesn't have to look like you. They don't have to be the same gender. They don't have to be the race, ethnicity, age, religion. They don't need to look like you at all. They might, because that is where the natural attraction first comes in. But remember, whenever you meet anybody, you are looking for a common thread that you have with that person. It could be absolutely anything. It could be your favorite vacation spot, your favorite color, your favorite food, your favorite book, whatever it is. You look for that common thread, start that chemistry. And once you have that chemistry, those people will want to help you just like you will want to help them. So if you're only looking for people who look like you are limiting yourself, because people who look like you and have the same background as you also think like you. And the whole point of having mentors is you want people who don't think like you, who can take off your blinders and really show you other opportunities. So put yourself in these places where you can meet other people, and it's not just at work. People think you can only have mentors at work. I want you to think outside of your organization. I want you to think outside of your industry. So my mentors are physicians, scientists, educators, law, military. It's really very diverse, because there are things that I don't know in my industry, but there's a problem that they probably solved in another industry. So I want to know about that. So sure, some of them look like me, but most don't. And that's the key.
That's a great point. So I wanted to go back to something that you were touching on earlier. A challenge that I hear from so many people who are perhaps more junior, they're the mentee in this particular situation, is that they know intellectually, they've certainly heard that, okay, it's important for this to be a reciprocal relationship, but they are often not sure what they can offer a more senior person. If you look on the surface, oh, well, they know more people than I do. They have more power than I do. They have more money than I do. They have more access than I do. What could I possibly do that would be of interest or of value to this person? And they just kind of get paralyzed and don't do anything as a result. What would you say to someone in that position, and how would you encourage them to think about what they could offer?
So I want to tell you, I touched on briefly that I actually joined Twitter over a decade ago because of people who were junior to me. I used to go recruiting at these conferences. I used to run what's called an MD PhD program. I used to find physician scientists, the diamonds in the rough, and really train them. And I was going recruiting at these conferences, and I saw this big poster that had a picture of what I thought was a pound symbol, what we now call a hashtag, and this blue bird. And everyone was talking about tweet, tweet, tweet. And I couldn't understand what people were talking about. So for any of you who have been at these recruiting conferences, you talk to one person at a time. And by the fifth hour, you're absolutely exhausted and drained because you feel like you're just on autoplay. So I had to pull over a young student and I said, what is this tweeting noise that everyone's talking about? And all of a sudden, he told me, now this is somebody who is a generation younger than me, a different gender, race, ethnicity, you name it, from a different state, everything's different. He told me about Twitter. And that's when I realized there was a whole other conversation going on that I was not even a part of. I could talk to thousands of people at once, where here I'm talking to one at a time. This is not scalable, what I'm doing. That's when I realized, and it took somebody who was junior than me, a generation younger than me, to really teach me about that. So that night I went to my hotel room, opened my first Twitter account. I didn't even have a picture. I had an egg. That's how long ago it was. But that was what I could learn. That was what I could learn. Now, I always tell for other people, there's all of these great articles coming out by a lot of the people that we know. And what happens is it's the more junior people who are actually reading them. So you can say, Dorie, if you're senior to me and I know that you're interested in entrepreneurs, and I read an article about something, even if it's maybe in an article that in a journal you may not regularly read, I can bring it up to you and say, Dorie, I read this article and it got me thinking about what you're always talking about. Look at the method that they're using. That method may not be on your radar, but now I introduced you to something. And now we can really help each other out. So there's so many ways that people who are junior can help.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's really interesting. Have they dragged you onto Clubhouse yet, Ruth?
Not yet. You know why? Because I'm writing a book, and I said I have to put all other social media on pause, because you know what it's like. You have to get those chapters in, right? No more distractions.
You do. It's brutal. Oh, exciting. When's your book coming out?
Next January. I'm
All right,
excited.
be on the lookout for it. Well, now, if I recall correctly, you can tell me here, your book is actually about the other key element of your expertise, which is about the success secrets of the famous people in all the fields, the Olympians, the astronauts, the CEOs. So tell me, what are the biggest things you've learned from these folks? I mean, also let me with love, ask the devil's advocate question, which is like, okay, Michael Phelps, he had a lot of medals for sure. He's a very successful swimmer. Also, it seemed like for a while there, he was a train wreck. So is it like, how does the success and the problems kind of fit together? Like how are we able to capture the good stuff and avoid the bad stuff?
You want to know the secret sauce?
I do.
So there's 4 things in the secret sauce. The first is you have to be intrinsically motivated. You have to love what you do. You would do it for free if you could. These are people that found their passion, they found their purpose, and they're doing it. They're doing it all the time. And this is what gets you. There's a difference between intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation, you're doing it for the love of what you're doing, right? I always ask the physicians, why did you become a physician? And very often when I had students, I would pull out their essay for when they applied to medical school, because sometimes we need to remember our why, right? That's why you're doing it. And extrinsic motivation are people who are doing it for the diplomas, the recognitions, the awards. Those people don't succeed. They either burn out or fail out. So intrinsic motivation is the first thing. The second thing is they have a very, very strong foundation in what they do, which they are constantly reinforcing. So what you would see is that the drills that you would see an Olympic champion doing are the same drills that you would see in a junior high gymnasium, right? So they're constantly reinforcing. They don't rest on their laurels. So the third one is they have this work ethic, very, very strong work ethic that you know what it takes. Dorie, I'm sure you're recognizing yourself in this as someone who has written 4 books and has accomplished all that you did. You don't do this by dropping your pen at 5 o'clock. You have to get the work done. You finish it no matter what. You do it until it's constantly, it's just perfect. And then you just do it a little bit more. And then the final thing is they learn in informal ways. We are adults. My background, I said, is in adult learning and leadership. We're not sitting in a classroom from 8 to 4 or 8 to 6. We can't do that anymore. So we learn informally. We learn by videos like this. We learn from podcasts. We learn by reading. We learn by talking to people. We learn from people around us. And this is where that mentorship comes in. Now, you were asking about, those are the 4 things, right? The key is you have to do all 4 things in unison. You can't say I'm doing number 1 and 2 on Monday and 3 and 4 on Wednesday, or this week I'll do these 2. You have to constantly do all 4. Now, the train wrecks, the problems that come in, they all have challenges. They absolutely all have challenges. But here's the difference between high achievers and the regular person. They know that a challenge is a chapter. It's not the entire story. So for them, it's not a question of if they will get over the hurdle or if they will get over that barrier. They know that they will. They have the self-confidence that they will. So they focus all of their energy on how. All of their energy is on how they are going to overcome that challenge. So when I ask all of these high achievers about their challenges and their disappointments, after a while they said, I'm sure I had it. I just don't really remember them because they don't focus on it. And it's something that we call in group dynamics, we call that a balance of Velcro versus Teflon. And this is what you really need in order to be a high achiever. A balance of Velcro means that everything sticks to you. Every roll of the eyes, every time someone sucks their teeth, every time someone ignores you or doesn't respond to the email, it sticks to you and sticks to you and weighs you down and weighs you down and weighs you down. But if you have a balance of Teflon, all those negative comments will just roll off of you. And you know it's not about their negative comment. That's a them problem, as my kids would say, right? It's not a me problem. It's a them problem. And you are just focused, laser focused on your goal. And that's the difference. So everyone has bumps in the road, but that's not what they focus on. I mean, look at the Olympians. They have to train for an extra year now to get into the Olympics, right? But they said, okay, it's an extra year. I have to focus. I have to do what I need to do. Go.
Yeah, so I think that's really powerful, Ruth. Although I can imagine that for a lot of people listening, they might say, "Okay, well, intellectually, I buy into that. Yes,
Mhm.
I should have the Teflon mentality." And yet, in practice, it's very hard for people to get there. How can we train ourselves or develop that skill so that the negative stuff doesn't stick like a burr?
Mm. So I was the queen of Velcro. The queen of Velcro. Every negative comment stuck to me. And then I decided this isn't going to work. This isn't going to work. I'm not going to achieve my goals this way. So I went to a conference and for one weekend, I tried to be Teflon. One weekend. You can do almost anything for a weekend, right?
What did that look like in practice? How did you do that?
If you had a problem with something, if you had a challenge about something, we can talk about it. We can think about it together. We can work on it together. But what happens is when people start getting so in their head about things, you get stuck and you can't move forward. So when you start to be like Teflon and things glide off of you, it is the most liberating feeling you will ever feel. It really helps. And
Wow.
now
So
there's no looking back.
amazing. So you can really just sort of consciously choose, look, I'm not going to let this bother me. And that was enough. The act of focusing on that and deciding to do that enabled you to enter that mentality. Is that right?
So exactly. And the high achievers, they focus on what they can control. They don't focus on what they cannot control. And the second you're able to focus on what you can control, everything else sort of disappears. So you remember in your book, you said you tried out all these things on yourself. You were the guinea pig when you were writing your books, right? And how it worked. I was also my own guinea pig. I tried it out and it works. It works when you don't I tell other people, they're not paying rent. Don't let them take up real estate in your head. They have their own drama. You only focus on what you can control. You only focus on that because you cannot let people deter you. And that'll really help.
Yeah, that's a great tip, Ruth. I love that. And so I'm also curious, besides that mindset shift to, from Velcro to Teflon, maybe you can tell us one or possibly two other things. You've been immersing yourself now for multiple years in the study of high performers. What else have you personally taken from this that has impacted how you do things or how you are handling your professional career?
So there's a few things. The one that I love the most, that I often repeat the most, is the sentence of fear not trying more than you fear failing. Failing is part of the learning process. So you have to fail, but you remember, then you use that process of how do you learn? How do you overcome that challenge? Not trying for high performance is not an option. They want to try. They may not succeed the first time, but they have to try. And what happens is they will try over and over and over again until they succeed. Most people are so afraid of failing that they will not even try. They have to have everything so perfect, but it's not going to be perfect. And this is what I tell the people I work with. You want to publish? Submit it. You're going to get reviews back anyway from the editor and from the peer reviewers. They're going to have changes. Everyone has changes. I've never seen anything accepted as is, but you have to get it out of your desktop and out to the journal. Otherwise, it's never going to get published. So don't be paralyzed by perfection. Just get it out there. Try, 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 try. That is one of the key ones. The other one is, I said, the mentoring team, which has been so much more robust. And the one that I really love the most is the building of the foundation, which I think has to be so strong. You know what works for you. You know how to manage your time. You have to do that. So one of the things that I have done is, they know, these high achievers know when they work best, and they capitalize on that time. So I am a morning person, which means all of my cognitive work is done in the morning. You don't want me reading or writing or editing something at 7 o'clock at night. You're not going to get my best work. So I do that work early in the morning, which means schedule all those non-cognitive tasks, such as Zooms and responding to email, for the later parts of the afternoon, where I start to get a little bit more tired. Do you do that, Dorie?
I do it where I can, for sure. I think one of the sort of circadian innovations is that unless I am doing a sort of mandatory work thing with people in Europe, or
Yeah.
India, or where it's like absolutely necessary, I I'm a morning-ish person, but not a super morning person. And so I really try hard, actually, not to schedule serious meetings in before like 10 a.m., let's say, unless I really, really have to, because it takes me a little while to get warmed up. So yeah, I'm definitely with you. I think it's important to know when we're at our best.
Absolutely. I guess I'm so used to being around physicians where I have to give talks at 6:30 and 7 in the morning and be perky.
Oh, brutal, brutal.
You get used to it. They have the harder job. I just make them look good.
I love it. Well, certainly your insights, Ruth, are going to make all of us look good once we read your book that comes out next January. It's very exciting. What is the title of your book?
It is called The Success Factor: Developing the Mindset and Skill Set of Business Peak Performers.
Awesome. Well, I have been here having the pleasure of talking with Dr. Ruth Gotian, and we've been talking about mentoring strategies. We've been talking about peak performance and how you can become a high performer. Ruth, is there anything else you'd like to add, or things that you want to mention before we sign off?
I am just so excited to be here with you and everyone. And really, one thing that I'm hoping I can leave everyone with is, I want everyone to really practice that thing that the high achievers do, where they fear not trying more than they fear failing. So I'm really hoping that in 2021, and with all of this, people can just try. Just try. What's the worst that will happen? Really, what is the worst that will happen? And really go find yourself, not just one mentor, but a team of mentors who can really help elevate your career, and come ready when you have those conversations.
That's fantastic. Ruth, for folks who want to learn more about you and your work, where should they go?
So my website is ruthgotian.com. And on there, you can actually find a template to how to develop your own mentoring team. And on all the social media, it is just my name, Ruth Gotean.
So good. I love it. And if folks want to learn more about my work as well, and also the mentor board of directors element that I talked about earlier that complements Ruth's work, you can go to dorieClark.com/reinvent for the free Reinventing You self-assessment. Ruth, it's been a pleasure talking with you today.
It's my absolute privilege. Thank you, Dorie.
Thank you.